In this video, I'll be running through a 6-step process for conducting a self-audit on your Google Ad account. You can pull your Google Ad account up right now, pause and play the video as I run through these 6 steps that you should be checking for. Number one, and this is the most important and the most common issue that I see in 90% of Google Ad accounts that I look at, whether they're spending $2,000 a month or even more importantly, if they're spending $100,000 a month on the platform, is that there's way too much overspend on branded key terms, and these branded key terms pop up and appear in a bunch of different campaigns regardless of exclusions. And so what you want to go and do is come into the campaigns within your account and go sort by cost and go through each individual campaign, click on Insights and Reports, Search Terms, sort these search terms either by conversions or clicks, and then look at what the actual search term data says. And you really want to make sure that this is not your own branded key term. And by branded key term, I'm talking about your brand name. And so if you're called Kogan, you want to make sure that Kogan isn't appearing here as a search term on a cold campaign. Now, what you'll end up finding for probably 80% of the businesses watching this that aren't super familiar with Google Ads and might be outsourcing to an agency that they're not really on top of and don't know if they're doing the right things, is that it will be full of brand. Almost your entire Google Ad account will just be brand. A majority of my audits, and once again, regardless of whether they're spending $70,000 a month or whether they're spending $10,000 a month, majority of my audits is literally just pointing this out. It's pulling up their performance mass campaign, pulling up their shopping campaigns that they think are cold, that they think are prospecting and bringing in new customers, and showcasing that 70 to 80% of the conversions here are warm or existing customers. And so you want to make sure that you have implemented brand exclusions on Performance Max. And so you go into settings and you go into the sub settings and you put a brand exclusion in. You want to make sure that you have dedicated branded campaigns. You have a dedicated brand search and shopping. That's also going to help in the prevention of your cold campaigns going and bidding on those key terms. We have videos on how to set up brand search and brand shopping. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're negative keywording your brand on your shopping and search campaigns. You do not want these campaigns bidding on brand. Number one, because the purpose of a cold campaign is to get new customers, and ultimately the purpose of paid media spend is to acquire new customers, not to just place on existing customers. And number two is because if you allow your cold targeting campaigns to place on brand, you actually end up paying a massive premium to do so, because you're using smart bidding strategies which are going to adjust bids upwards for high intent users. And a user that's searching for your branded key term is super high intent. And so you end up paying $2, $3, $4 a click for a user who's already an existing customer, already searching for you, already just going to click on your organic listing anyway, but you just serve them with an ad on top. When instead, that could have been segmented out, dedicated in its own campaign, have its own custom bidding strategy, where you might have paid 2 cents instead. And this is one of the easiest wins that we get in majority of accounts that we onboard, is we decrease the cost allocation towards brand by 10 to 20x and immediately unlock either a ton of efficiency or a ton of new customer acquisition by redistributing that budget elsewhere. Number two, and I hate this one, is optimize your Google Merchant Center for a sub 5% disapproval. And the reason why I don't like it is because no one likes GMC. No one likes going into the Google Merchant Center and just fixing errors all day. But if you follow the YouTube channel, you'll notice that we put up a video almost every single week on how to fix GMC disapprovals. And the reason why we do that is because there's a million different disapprovals that appear. So you need tons of resourcing around this. But then number two, it actually, unfortunately, makes a massive difference. And you can see I've actually put that in this slide as well. I've said, unfortunately, GMC quality does make an impact on shopping performance. If it didn't, I would never touch the thing and I would just let it run and I wouldn't care about disapproval rates or limitations on products, etc. But we have seen ourselves come into accounts, onboard clients, fix up the GMC, and immediately Google performs 10 to 30% better. And so it's a really easy, quick win to get yourselves above competitors. Google factors in a quality score on all of your listings and all of your products, and that quality score is weighted based on the quality of the feed. And so you want to make sure that you're consistently checking your GMC feed. Number one, for disapprovals. Number two, for limitations as well as warnings. You definitely want to troubleshoot them. And you want to make sure that you're keeping this disapproval rate sub 5%. In this example, for example, this brand is not. sub 5%. They have 2.6 thousand disapprovals, 20,000 approved. This is a big issue. Now, there's a multitude of different reasons as to why they could have disapprovals here. If they actually can't get around this and they can't fix these disapprovals, they actually want to just completely remove these products from the merchant center entirely. And that's also a way to immediately boost performance. Step number 3 is you want to prioritize shopping over search spend. If you're spending under $50K per month on Google Ads at the moment, and honestly, depending on your geographic targeting, that number can change. If you're targeting the big 4 countries, change that number up to 100, 200,000. Okay, and also depending on your TAM, that number changes as well. And so this is a bit of a broad stab in the dark in terms of the number that I put down here. But generally speaking, if you're spending under $50,000 a month, almost all of your spend should just be in Google Shopping. It will always deliver a better ROI than search. There is a slight exception here, which is that if you have a B2B component to the business, we actually sometimes do see better ROIs through search campaigns because for whatever reason, B2B purchasing prioritizes clicks on search ads over shopping ads, and so you end up with higher ticket average order value coming through search, and that outweighs the ROI of direct-to-consumer through shopping. But that's probably 2 to 4% of the people watching this video right now. So if you're in the majority, check your account. If there's a large allocation towards search campaigns, fix it immediately because that's a massive quick win that you can have in the account overnight. Step number 4, this is getting a little bit more complex and nuanced, is that you want to tighten your attribution lengths. And so the reason for this, and I've put some instructions up on the screen here, is that if you have really long attribution windows, and in this case, so you hit goals, summary, you click on your conversion action that's set to primary, and you can then see your conversion window for click-throughs, conversion window for engaged views, and then view-throughs. And for this example, this brand had 90, 30, 30. Now what this actually means is that if a user clicks on an ad and then buys within 90 days, Google can claim that conversion. If a user has an engaged view, which the definition here, I believe, is that they watch more than 3 seconds of a video, Google can also claim the conversion. Or alternatively, if someone simply just views a display ad or any form of ad, Google can also claim the conversion within 30 days. Now, the reason why incredibly long attribution windows can be dangerous is because Google can significantly over attribute, or attribution can get muddied up and you can get heavy attribution towards bottom of funnel campaigns. And so depending on the average time to purchase of your particular brand, which is something that you can check in GA4, you should adjust these conversion windows accordingly. And to give you just a rough guide, if you sell higher ticket items above $600 to $700, you likely have a fairly extensive conversion window. People are probably taking 10 to 20 days to decide before purchasing. And because of that, you might want to leave your attribution windows out to this kind of length. I would personally go for a 90, 30, 7. If you have average order values below $400 to $500, so you're more in the fast-moving space where people are going to buy within 5 to 7 days, I would want to really tighten up these windows to 30, 7, 3, so that we can get better attribution on the click to purchase within the campaigns, and so that we can also trust the numbers a bit better. The issue that you're going to see a lot, particularly within Performance Max, is that Performance Max is going to show you a return on ad spend figure, even when you have heavy brand exclusions, that isn't an actual representation of the incremental return if you layer more spend into that campaign. And so you might be looking at your campaign, it has a 5 ROAS, and you go, okay, let's put another $1,000 in. That should give us an extra $5,000 in revenue. You do that, it doesn't work. And it's not because the campaign didn't scale. It's because the figure that you were looking at wasn't the actual representation of the incremental return of that campaign type. And the reason for that is because of over-attribution or misattribution within the account. And that miss or over-attribution is coming from really long conversion windows. And so if you go and tighten those conversion windows down, you'll actually be able to trust the figures in the platform with a higher certainty. And so that's what we're doing here, is we're tightening attribution windows so that we can be more certain in the figures in the platform. This is very similar to taking view-through conversions out of Meta. The reason why we don't like using 7-day click or 1-day view as an attribution window within Meta is because those view-through conversions just significantly over-attribute from people that really the meta ads had nothing to do with their purchasing decision. And so we want to cut them out of the figures so that we can trust the figures more for the micro decisions we're making at a campaign and an ad set level. Exact same principle applies here. So you want to be careful here. You don't want to tighten them too aggressively, but you also want to look and go, okay, is my agency right now, do they have this set to 90, 90, 90? Or is this set alternatively to 731, which is way too small, and you're probably going to get some under attribution in that case, and you're also not going to get proper attribution to top of funnel campaigns, and you'll get heavy prioritization of brand search as people funnel down. And so I'd be asking yourself, how much do you trust the numbers in the platform at the moment, given all your brand exclusions and you've gone through all the other steps? If you still don't trust them, if you're layering and spend, it's not matching up with the ROI that you're seeing, I'd look at tightening attribution lengths. Step number 5, consolidate over segmentation. And we actually have a video on this that will better articulate what I'm about to explain, which is that you want to consolidate overly segmented campaigns to improve overall performance, because too many campaigns dilutes data and restricts optimization. And this is based on the way that data is segmented through the campaign structure of Meta and Google. And so when a product or an ad goes into the auction and serves in front of a user, it is inheriting data from the ad level, ad group level, campaign, and then account level. And the reason why it needs that segmentation of data and that data needs to be siloed out is because if you sell couches and then a year down the line, you've been spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month on Google Ads, you then go and you launch another product range so that you can get more volume through the business, which is a great decision to make. And you go and launch stand-up desks. Odd decision, but you do it anyway. And you go and then put that into the account, and you put that as a separate ad group or a separate campaign. The account number 1 needs to be able to inherit data from all of the data that you've accumulated over the last year from your target demographic. But it also needs to be able to understand that this is actually a different product that might have a slightly different target demographic, and that it should treat targeting and placements differently. And that's what happens when you create a separate campaign or you create a separate ad group, is you get this level of segmentation where it can relearn towards a different target demo, but still not completely reset learning, so it can inherit some from the existing data within the account. And so that's why when you take products and you segment them out, you're creating different machine learning algorithms that are going after slightly different audiences because of the segmentation of conversion data. Where that can get incredibly dangerous is that if you are selling couches and then you decide, well, we want to actually segment all of them out. Instead of just having all of our couches in one campaign, let's have 6, because I want to put a little bit more budget into these ones, a little bit less into these ones, and I also just want better control over performance. When you do that, you actually end up with worse performance in the account, significantly worse in most instances, because you take a consolidated campaign with all your couches that have 90 conversions a month, and you split it out, and now you have 10 campaigns with 9 conversions each, which is a way smaller sample size of data, which means you're going to suffer from small sample size bias, which is where it's going to over optimize towards a small data set of psychographic data points, and your targeting as a whole is going to worsen. Whereas if you consolidate those campaigns down, you will actually see better performance because you have more conversion volumes flowing through the campaign. And this is where you really get into this strategical dilemma where you want to consolidate as much as possible. In an ideal world, you're just running like one campaign. But you also need a degree of control in alignment with the product priorities, inventory purchasing, MOQs, as well as gross margin and unit economics. And so when you segment campaigns, it needs to be in line with actual higher end business strategical goals than just in-platform decision-making. And so a reason as to why you might want to segment campaigns is that some of your couches you might be buying from well-known brands, and so you're just stocking them and you have 20 to 30% gross margin, whereas you have another range, which is your own range that you manufacture yourself, and you have 70% gross margin on them. You want to treat those two different products, even though they're in the same niche and they're going at the same target demographic, very differently, because one of them you're making 2.5x more profit on at a gross level. And so what that means is we can go a lot more aggressive on that product, spend a lot more, and still probably make more money than product B. And so segmenting them out and having different efficiency targets with different spend allocation makes sense, even if we're taking the slight loss and the slight hit in terms of fragmentation of data and slightly worse performance accordingly. Another example, and where you might want to segment, is, let's take the same example, but let's say gross margin are the same, 50%, 50%, but one of them you have an MOQ of 500, the other you have an MOQ of 70. And so that 500 MOQ, you need to push that product. Like, you need to accumulate conversion data and you need to get that thing working, or you're going to be stuck on a lot of inventory. Comparatively, the 70 MOQ, yeah, we want to sell it, obviously, but we don't need heavy prioritization of that product. And so once again, a good example of where segmentation might be necessary so that we can have granular control over budget allocation within the account structure. And so when you're looking at your campaign right now, and if you have your Google Ads account up right on your left screen and you're looking at how the campaigns are segmented, think, why are the campaigns segmented? Are we just segmenting arbitrarily because in-house team or the agency that we're working with just wants to make it seem like we're doing a lot of stuff? Because I see that a lot. Or is there a very thoughtful approach to the segmentation that's being taken here that's in alignment of an actual business goal, and therefore it actually stacks up and makes sense? Because the segmentation will decrease performance. That's one given reality. If you currently are looking at 10 different campaigns, all of your different categories segmented, you are getting worse performance than if you just consolidated that into one. And so you need to have a very good reason as to why you're segmenting out in that way. So identify redundant or overlapping campaigns, merge similar campaigns into a single campaign, and after you do that, monitor performance, but performance will be good. And if you want more information and a 7-minute breakdown about how this machine learning actually works in Google Ads, we have a video on it, so I'd recommend searching that into YouTube. And then step number 6. And this is a bit of a hit on demand gen campaigns, which is delete demand gen campaigns. We've tested these a lot now. We actually are still actively testing them on about 4 to 5 larger accounts at the moment. I still haven't seen them deliver consistent ROI that is proven cold customer acquisition. This ends up being some kind of propaganda that's getting pushed by Google ad reps at the moment. I think it's just a sales engine where they're trying to get more spend through the platform, through another channel. Don't run them. Haven't seen them to work. Focus all of your budget if you're a smaller end brand on shopping. If you're middle to higher tier, you're spending $50,000 to, let's say, $250,000 a month on Google. You can start to expand out into search and into YouTube as well, which is really good once you're at volume and you're actually approaching the platform, right? But if you see a demand gen campaign within your Google ad account, turn it off. Or if you're working with an agency, ask them immediately why they're running this. If they said a Google rep said to run it, even more reason to turn it off. If you're spending over $100,000 a month on Google and your agency's running it, I understand they're probably just running a test to see if it actually does drive an ROI, because they probably haven't put a lot of spend to it yet to determine this conclusion. But I would not run it.